It's your time to shine, Michael.
All right.
We're here now.
Got the camera on me?
I don't want
No.
to arm out of the way.
No.
This is for moral sport.
I feel brave. I feel brave now. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walking Blind podcast. This is episode 44, right?
44.
Okay, I'm gonna do that again because I legitimately wasn't sure.
Should I touch your head again?
Sure. Yeah. Just keep it.
Rub his ear.
Walking Blind is hosted by overly emotional dudes who overthink and overanalyze everything. Nothing the hosts say should be taken as medical advice or opinion. They're not professionals, and they're about to make that very clear. So just kick back and hang with them, because you've earned it.
All right. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the Walking Blind podcast. This is episode 44. I'm Mike. This is also Mike. And today we have a very special guest. It's our buddy Aaron.
Oh, not Mike? Okay. Hashtag not Mike.
Aaron is he wears several hats, but we got to meet through his podcast called Growing Up Punk. I don't know where I'm looking. The Growing Up Punk podcast, but we'll get into that. And I feel like I'm talking a lot, Mike. Jump in.
It's such an exciting intro. We're back, episode 43.
I'm sure it's like super monotone, but right now I feel like I was just giving it so much.
You feel like you just accomplished so much.
I'm all giddy.
Not only do we have Aaron in studio, we also hidden in the corner over there.
Packed house today.
We got our boy Ryan in the corner.
Yo.
And then over on my corner, which you can't see,
And you can't see, we got good old Martin James.
Alcedo.
Martin Alcedo. We got a full house today, and it's low key. I'm impressed that we were able to fit this many bodies in this little room, because it looks way bigger in pictures.
And we have Jesse on keys.
Jesse on the keys.
Hi.
But let's talk. I want to first off start with the fact that Aaron comes from a much cooler podcast than ours.
I thought you were going to say cooler country.
And cooler country, straight up from the north.
Just weather-wise, not the rest.
So I set the temperature in this room to be very, very cold.
Feel right at home.
I was hoping that it would suit your needs, when you
Beautiful.
came in here.
Love it.
So I like to start off every podcast by asking, some fun questions about how you found punk rock and how you found hardcore music. And I totally just snaked your intro because I just listened to the intro from the Jesse episode of Stick to Your Guns.
We're not the originators of that question, so that's okay.
It's a great question, though.
Dude, so let's I want to start off. So we did say, you have the podcast Growing Up Punk. And then also you also have a punk rock and music background.
Yeah.
I kind of want to talk about like what you've done, like, talk about the bands that you've played in, if you want to give us like a brief little history, little take us down memory lane.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Yeah. So I grew up in a small town. It's like 10,000 people. So discovering music was like pretty foreign, right? Like I would, only find bands like through like magazines or skate videos or, just these random outlets before the internet and everything, right? Yeah. And so it was a very slow process, right? You kind of find one band and that leads to others. And, but yeah, so finding I knew I loved music. So I had lots of like behavior issues as a kid. I needed an outlet. I was like super high energy. So when I got into drumming, I took drum lessons for a year. And when I kind of realized I had something to put my time and energy into, I was like, okay, I know I like this.
Yeah.
And so I would just kind of, play to whatever like rock stuff or whatever, was on the radio or whatever I could hear. but I always knew like, you know, I was like, this is cool, but this isn't exactly like what I'm hoping for. But you don't know until, you know, you find it, right? And I was, you know, 12 years old or whatever that was, like 95, 96. And so we went on a family trip out to Vancouver, and we were at a music store, and I saw a cover that caught my eye. It was for a band called Slick Shoes.
Okay.
And so I put it in, and just immediately it was like this is what I've been looking for. Just like super fast, you know, not necessarily aggressive, but, you know, aggressive compared to like rock
What you
music
were listening to. Yeah.
And then MXPX's Life in General, and then, you know, that just kind of opened up, you know, so much for me. So yeah, again, still in a small town, you know, there was a really small group of us kind of into that kind of music, and there wasn't really like much of a local scene. Like a few years later, some bands would kind of tour through, and, you know, more like in high school, but it was still small, like, you know, 30, 40 people kind of thing. And that just kind of escalated as I discovered more, and, you know, then when the internet came out, and that opened up things, and you know, just, you know, you look at a CD liner thing, and it's like, okay, next time in the city, I'm going to look for, you know, these kind of bands. And it was so, I mean, I love that time, you know, just discovering music, you know, not really knowing what you're looking for until you kind of find it. And then that just opens the door to something totally different. And so that's kind of how I found music. And I still like do the same kind of thing when I find a band. And, you know, obviously it's a lot easier to, you know, look stuff up now and have access to everything, but I still have that same like excitement and energy for, you know, on Friday, like release days, have a few like sites I, you know, see all the release things, and go to Spotify, add it all, and see. And I mean, there's so much now that, you know, it's easier to discard stuff, but
Right.
you know, anytime I hear something like, oh, like this is awesome, like I still like feel that excitement for music. And so
What's Slick Shoes album?
that was Rusty. So yeah, I think that was 96 that one came out.
No comment.
One of the things that like I resonate with is, you know, like I grew up liking alternative rock and all that stuff, and like my, you know, Metallica was a band that I liked aspects of it, but I didn't realize what it was, and later on I realized it was the speed. I like the fastness of Metallica, and I think I probably said this before on the podcast, but like I always remember my buddy who actually became our original drummer. His brother was the one who kind of like sat me down. I don't know what I said. I think I was very iffy on when he asked like what kind of bands I liked, or I just said like, I don't know, I just like rock. And I think he was just kind of like, well, like, what do you like about it? Or like, what are the bands you like? And he was the one who broke it down for me.
Okay.
And so he actually did say like, he's like, do you like Metallica? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what do you like about Metallica? And I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know.
Don't ask me these hard-hitting questions.
It just sounds good. You don't really know what it is, but
then I remember just saying like, well, I like when they're fast.
Yeah.
Is what I said. And then he's just like, okay. And he's like, do you like The Offspring? I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you like Green Day? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I think you like punk, dude. And so he's the one who turned me on to like to punk rock stuff. And then like finding that, I think the way when you found Slick Shoes and me discovering those kind of bands, I was like, oh, this is it. This is it.
Yeah.
This is like,
well, yeah. And I didn't have anybody to do that, so I didn't know to ask for that. Like to go to a music store, it's just like, you just kind of knew that small world of bands and kind of stuck to that.
Dude, I used to have. I'm sure my parents, if my parents hear this, are gonna love this. But like in school, I would have a notebook that was dedicated to like I'd have CD booklets, and I'd write down all the thank yous, see the bands that they thank, and I'd write them down, even people's names, just to be like, you know, and try to like look for them.
Yeah,
and
to see
them.
like who they were. And like what they did.
So.
That's a little funny kind of side note with that. So I grew up in like a pretty conservative Christian home, and with my behavior issues, like my parents thought anything like loud and aggressive is just going to like set this kid off. Mm-hmm. Like my brother would be listening to, you know, whatever, like Weird Al Yankovic and stuff that's like not even really anything, right? But you know, it was the cover where he was mocking Nirvana. You know, it had like he was naked on it with, you know, like a donut or something. And my dad, you know, caught us listening to it, and so it's just funny that like what my parents thought would like make it worse is kind of like what saved me. You know, when I found that, I was like, okay, like now I don't need to be, you know, aggressive or whatever.
Yeah,
and
like
maybe
an
some of that
outlet.
was just maturing and getting older, but it's just like, oh, now I can just put in headphones and listen to somebody else screaming, and I don't have to do it. Or not that I like screamed a lot, but you know, just how the energy kind of shifts. You know, like say you're feeling angry and you listen to some like heavy metal. It's not like you're physically thrashing, but you're kind of mentally thrashing. Is that a thing? Mental thrashing? I
mental
created that.
thrash.
Yeah,
I'm a mental
thrash.
thrasher.
That's gonna be the episode title, Mental Thrash.
Yeah.
I like that's kind of sick.
Yeah. Tag that right there. Jesse's like, I don't know how to do that. What
That's
are you talking about?
that should be the name of the punk band that we're doing.
Are we gonna talk about that?
We can. I mean,
It's up to you guys.
whatever we want.
So I obviously am not involved in this at all. But so when you guys started talking, so you guys originally met through the podcast.
Yeah.
Right? Like you guys met
Podcast
talking
band.
No Bragging Rights.
How did that come about? Because the way I knew about it was our buddy Joel had just put it. He's our acting manager at the time, and I remember he put it in the group chat, and he was just like, "Would any of you guys want to be in a podcast called Growing Up Punk?" And like I think everyone in the chat was just like, "Mike,"
Yeah.
like Mike should do it. And then I remember just being like, "Dude, yeah, totally." Like, and then I checked you guys out, and I was like, "Oh, this is fucking sick." Your interview with Adam is what like. got me.
From Homegrown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel that Homegrown was always. I don't know if it was like this with your group of friends, but I always felt like there was like always bands that were together, and so it was like, are you a Bad Religion fan or are you a Pennywise fan? Are you a
We
No
didn't
Effects
have that in
fan?
my town. It was
Yeah.
just
Anything
what,
punk.
just yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't know, it's just like we had, and so I remember at the time it was just like, are you a Blink fan or are you a Homegrown fan? And I was Homegrown all the way. Like I love I thought Homegrown I thought they wrote better songs. I thought they were better musicians.
Yeah.
I thought they were better vocalists. And so anyway, so that being said, I always felt they were like so, like they never became what I thought they were going to, because I put them on in those early years on that like echelon of like Newfound Glory, like Blink,
Yeah.
all those bands. I thought they should have been up there, and then they weren't. And then hearing your talk with them and how he kind of like hearing their story like that. Anyway, that's what got me excited about
Oh, that's cool.
your guys' podcast.
You know what's funny is I remember Mike going on to do the podcast, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm doing this podcast, and whatever." And then he came back, and I'll call him out on this. He came back and he's like, "Dude, it was like we just connected about punk rock, and like it was just like it was a completely different level of conversation. Like it was so cool, man. Like we had the same interests, found the same bands, stuff like that." And then I was like, "Cool, man. Like, dude, I'm glad you had a good time." And then all of a sudden he's like, "So there's a new band that we're gonna be writing some jams for." And I was like, "Wait, what? Like, what just happened?" And he was so excited, and getting Mike excited about things. Normally he's pretty calm and level headed.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you
that's
know,
cool. Yeah, like the
definitely
first time he came on, we were talking about Pure Noise. So we were talking about like some of his favorite Pure Noise releases and some of mine. And yeah, I think we talked about No Bragging Rights on there. And then after it's like, hey, like let's do one just about No Bragging Rights. So yeah, we actually got to. So yeah, it was cool to start the connection by just, you know, talking about mutual bands that we loved, and then getting to talk about a band that I loved, which was yours, and yeah, so it was cool to connect on those kind of two different music levels.
So did our buddy reach out to you, or how did that work?
Like for you to come on?
Yeah.
Well, we were doing so the podcast is me, my co-host David, and when we were doing this series on labels, we kind of each picked labels that like we were both into, and so one of mine was Pure Noise. And so it was kind of just going through the list of bands and just being like, okay, like who's on the label, who would I kind of want to talk to, or like what bands that I like, and so I can't quite remember like if I reached out to multiple ones, because I mean that's a lot of what it is like, you know, just throwing stuff out there. Sometimes
throw the
you
line out.
Yeah, don't get anything, and so yeah, when you responded, I was like, oh, awesome, like yeah, I'm stoked about, you know, finding a band about Pure Noise plus a band that I like, and because that's always, part of when you're trying to like come up with content, like we try to focus obviously on stuff we really like, but sometimes it's like, okay, like, well, you kind of take what you can get sometimes, right? And that's not an insult. I'm not saying like we've had guests on that I didn't like or whatever, right? But sometimes like, okay, they're willing to do it. Like, sure, it'll be a cool episode, and that's good. So, anyways,
Cool.
So like I kind of want to go back to your like kind of punk rock history.
yeah.
So coming from this small town, like you've got, like you said, a scene that started to develop later on. How long into it before you started playing in bands that were doing things like, cause you played, I guess one of the bigger ones that most people know was Means, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And like, what was the drive that kind of got you guys out of the small town? Was everybody from that town, or was this later on?
Yeah. So there's kind of a lot to that. So I only played in one other band before Means, and it was just like a kind of a nothing, just playing, kind of realizing, oh, some of their friends are interested, like let's try playing, but no real like great songwriting, by any means, which maybe nobody is in high school, but so I was kind of playing with these other two guys, and we played a show at the skate park in town. In the town I grew up in, there was like a private Christian school, and so there was a band from there playing. And so it was kind of this like, not talk of the town, but like, oh, like there's, like this band from the Christian school playing, and they were called Means to an End. And so they played, and I was like, oh, like that's, it was just like kind of pop punk, like nothing crazy. But again, like, it's like, oh, there's like a pop punk band in this town. And like, I didn't know anybody that like went to the school. It was kind of its own thing, even though it was a small town. And so one day I get a phone call from this guy, and he's like, hey, like I hear you play drums. We have a guy playing drums, but he doesn't really know how to play. Like, would you want to come jam? Like, I don't know if they had heard from someone about me or whatever, or like we were at the show, but long story short, I was like, oh yeah, like I'd love to, go jam. So I put my double kicks in my backpack and, biked across town and just like went and met these guys I had never met before. And we just went into their dorm room and just like started playing. And we just kind of connected, like on their side, they're like, oh man, like this guy can like actually play punk music. And I was also like, oh man, like these guys can actually play, punk. And, they had their room was just like covered in like show posters. And like, I was like, where are you seeing all these shows? And so some of the people, like there was a connection to the school from the city that I now live, which is called Regina. And so lots of like people would send their kids to the school in the town I came from, Dauphin. And so there was this, they drive back to Regina for shows, and there was like, Regina's not a huge city, but it had like a thriving, punk scene back then. So they'd get like every big tour would come through there. And I was like, man, like that's not that far away. Like I had no idea all these shows were going on there. So then I would start like tagging along to go to shows, and, things just kind of kept going. We're finishing high school and jamming and, starting to set up some local shows. And so kind of around then there was like a few local bands, and there was this place, it was an old fire hall. It was just like this like small kind of cement room, like no stage or anything, but it was super cheap to rent. And they were just like, yeah, like small town, nothing else to do. Like, set up some shows. And, and so that kind of kept going. And then bands, like other Canadian bands started hearing about it and would like kind of book shows there. And so yeah, then it kind of made this little music scene there. And I can't remember what the original question was anymore, but so yeah, things just kind of, organically went, and it was this really cool little community. Like, I'm really grateful for it because it was like really genuine. Like it was like, small town, nothing else to do. Like, let's just enjoy music and be together. There was no, like scene BS or like fights, like nothing, like, no drugs or alcohol. It was just small town kids, in a mosh pit, kind of a pathetic mosh pit, but right. Just like being like,
still
man,
cool
like,
though. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, man, there's this loud music, and let's just do something different than whatever else everyone else is doing in this small town.
That's cool.
And is there still a scene like in that town to this
No.
day, or is it okay?
Yeah, it kind of like fizzled out, once that kind of group graduated and like moved away, or yeah, I've never heard of anything really else happening there.
So the dudes that you were jamming with at that point in time, did all of them end up in Means, or was it just a couple of them that stayed along for the ride, or was this like a...
Yeah, right. You mentioned about so one of the guys was from that town, and another one, had gotten sent there from another small town in Saskatchewan, which is the province that we're from. So we were kind of, came from all these different backgrounds, all like small town, and so it's kind of a funny like melting pot of influence, because it's just maybe just a small town thing, but you don't have any of these like, man, like we want to sound like this big, hardcore band. It was like, we just want to make something that sounds cool to us, or, that sounds like, whatever punk bands are influencing us kind of thing. Out of the original three of us, then me, so it was me, Matt, and a guy named Blair. Blair stayed with us until we started touring, and then realized it was not for him. And so it was me and Matt, and then we had our friend Dylan join. He was screaming in a different hardcore band that we had played with in another town. We were like, man, that guy's got like really sweet vocals and stage presence, and so we knew he kind of played bass or guitar, and so we asked him to come and like, hey, like, would you, we were incorporating kind of more screaming and stuff then too, and so that's when because we started really like pop punk, kind of fast punk, and then kind of started getting a bit more influence from post hardcore and melodic hardcore and some metal like Misery Signals and stuff like that, and
Sick.
So that's kind of when things were like, okay, like let's kind of keep pursuing this. So in there too, like we had moved, like graduated high school, we had moved to Regina, and kind of was like, okay, like, we've got a good, like a big local music scene. We'd gone there a number of times and we're kind of like accepted, as like a local band kind of thing. And just kind of started getting on shows and just writing like all the time. Like we would kind of always have a new set because we were writing so much. So then it was me, Matt, Dylan, and then Dylan didn't want to play, so he was playing bass and screaming, which is kind of a little goofy for like a 3-piece hardcore band,
Yeah.
And we were kind of like, okay, if we really want to like, have a presence, we need to have a front man, and let's get somebody on bass. And then so we got a bass player for who we had also seen in a different band from a different city. So it was 4 guys from 4 different places, kind of coming together and then making our dreams happen kind of thing. So
it's sick just like just hearing you tell it, because you kind of see like that small town of like, this is the start of a scene, like this is like, we have nothing and we're just kind of figuring things out as we go. And like a lot of times those tiny little shows at like like you said, like the Fire Hall, like those are the most fun shows because there's no bullshit involved, like, right, like it's just like, fuck it, we're playing right here on the floor. We might have a shitty PA, but everybody's gonna get rowdy because there's 30 of us that are into this, so like everybody's gonna go hard because that's just what we do.
And a big part of it was, there was tons of towns like ours around, so then it was like, oh, let's go play this town, this, and that's what really I feel like really helped our band get off the ground, was like, we can go play in these 5-10 places, maybe there's 30-40 kids, but they're gonna like buy our CDs, they're gonna buy our merch, like they'll come out every time because there's nothing else, and there's no other bands like awesome. Kind of doing it, and so it was cool. We kind of had our own little kind of circuit of things before kind of really branching out. But
one of the cool, it's funny that one of the coolest like little scenes or market or whatever you want to call it is actually in Canada. It's Lethbridge. And I think like Martin can attest to this. Their scene is probably 30 kids. Like that's probably the entire scene. But all 30 of those kids mosh. All 30 of those kids like go.
They're stage diving and like crowd surfing and do whatever they can.
It's like one of those things where it's such a small little scene in town, but like pound for pound, they're like those like some of the best shows. We were excited when we go there, and people are like Lethbridge.
That's what's cool about
dude,
those.
Man.
Like there's hunger for it because they're not, they're not getting every tour that they want to come through, kind of thing.
It's like the gift and the curse of Southern California is that like we get so many big tour packages that come through. We get so many like huge bands or even like artists, anything like that come through that like you can get choosy about what you go to and what you want to do. It's not like, oh, dude, this band's coming through and they're the only band coming through for the next month, so we're just gonna go. but that's I like that just whole like mentality and like idea of just we're all just gonna go out and just all hang out with our friends and all just do some cool shit like that.
Yeah, and it was hard work, like, too, because we didn't have that. We kind of had to go make it happen. It wasn't, there wasn't tons of opportunities.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, if we want to do this, like, let's just go play everywhere and anywhere we can, play with whoever, and just, kind of keep pursuing things.
Well, so that being said, like, so how does a band like your guys' get on the radar for Face Down? Like,
yeah, I mean, just just keep building off what we did. So, and then we start doing, an east leg of like Eastern Canada tour or Western, start kind of getting a bit more momentum. And, so like we had a manager. So this guy kind of approached us at a show, and, like, it was kind of weird for us, like, cause we didn't even really know what that was. And he was just like, like, I get you guys on like some college radio stations, or, I guess he saw potential in us, and we were just like, oh, well, that's cool. Someone wants to help us. Like,
somebody likes us.
Yeah, let's do it. And he ended up being like, it kind of got weird, maybe as it does with lots of first managers.
First managers, it always gets weird somewhere.
And anyways, he was a funny guy, but yeah, he helped kind of just push us to be like, what do you guys want to do? Like, let's, right? Because when you don't really know what's out there, you just do what you know. Right. So it's like, oh, let's go to this town. He's like, well, like, what about like touring the States? And we're just like, oh man, like how would we do that kind of thing? And, like, do you want to get music out there? And so he definitely helped just kind of help us dream. And so as we were playing more and looking to like start recording, I think just labels came up, and he was just like what would be your dream labels kind of thing. And so Face Down was one of them. And so we had our first EP out. So we went and got like our first like professional sounding EP, and it was just 4 songs, but they were like a huge step above what we had before. And so that was helping us just get more opportunities. And so I think he just kind of started sending stuff out. He shot some like pretty like lo-fi music videos, and it's kind of a crazy thing, like, because I don't even know kind of what Face Down was going off of, besides that they had signed Comeback Kid from Canada. So it was kind of like, okay, we're kind of in that area, like Comeback Kid was the only Canadian band before us that's been on there. And so, I think it was just Jason kind of liking what he heard. It was a bit different sound, and, it wasn't, tough guy hardcore, or kind of a lot of the similar sounding stuff that Face Down had. It's more melodic. And so I think he just liked it and was willing. And at that time, Face Down had like a sub label, Strike First. And we didn't want to do that, like, because they had some okay bands, but it was like, you know what, like, we're serious about this. Like, we will tour, we'll do the work that it takes. Like, put us on Face Down, get us in front of people. And I think he was just like, okay, like, yeah, let's do it and see what happens. And yeah, I can still remember getting the news. We were on a ferry crossing to an island in Canada when we got the news, just being like, yeah, like, contracts coming. And so, yeah, it was just a really cool, like, just coming from these small town dreams. And it's just like, wow, okay, like, we're doing something I never thought we could, and let's see where this goes. And
so in the like the, I guess, the pre-Face Down era, and you guys are doing your own little runs around Canada. Were you guys taking bands out with you, or is it kind of you just going and playing with the locals?
Yeah, at start it was us just trying to like find promoters in cities or bands that we had some kind of connection with. It was like, hey, if we come to your area, like, can you set up 5 or 6 shows kind of thing? And because Canada is like, it's a really big country and it's really spread out. So to do an Eastern tour, like, you know, to drive from where I am to say like Toronto, like that area is like 25 hours, you know? So there is some stuff in between there. And once you get out there, there's a bunch, but you know, like, to just hit major centers in Canada, like, it's like 6-hour drives, 8-hour drives in between. So you really kind of had to make sure, like, you know, you have some shows on that end when you get there. And and I guess just back then it was such a kind of a thriving thing. Like, from what I remember, it wasn't like super hard to kind of do. Like, I mean, it took effort and showing up, and lots of the shows were terrible. But it's just, you kind of go and hope for the best. And it's like, okay, like next time we come through, we're definitely not playing here and not doing this promoter. But this band was really cool, and they said they'll set up shows next time. And so you just kind of like write it down in a booklet, you know, like, okay, email this or call this person, and then the next time do something different. And then it just kind of, you know, then it's like, oh, like this bigger band, like, you know, has heard of us now, and they want us to come out. And so just kind of, grows from there. And because it is smaller, like it's easier, I would say, in Canada to kind of get exposure, because there's less, you know, just touring bands or, whatever it is. So it probably happened faster there than, you know, a band in the States kind of thing.
I feel like, and it's kind of cool that I feel like Canada's pretty good too about like having a lot of pride in their bands. Like, like it's one of those things where I feel like in the States it's very easy. Like, you know, obviously we have the big bands that blow up and they have their fans, but it's also, you get a lot of like the shit talking where it's like, yeah, you know, they're doing well, but there's like almost like that that layer of like they're either sellouts or whatever it is. Yeah. But I find that like anytime I talk to like anyone about Alexis on Fire that's Canadian, for them they like, it's like real deal. Like they ride with them. Like it doesn't matter whether they're on TV or the radio. Like everyone that I've met is like, yeah, Alexis on Fire is like, we back them. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a good experience in Canada. And I mean, I remember coming down to the States, like it was just such a different thing. It's just like, oh man, like we're nothing down here. We don't know anyone. You can smoke in venues, and that's weird. And so just different. I mean, back then you could, anyways.
Was it nice? I see what you're doing, Martin. I feel it. Martin's over here untying my shoes.
I have
my new shoes.
I have to give Martin credit because like he's sitting on the floor, but he's been so quiet. Like it took him like 5 minutes to pull his cell phone out.
That was stellar.
I was just sitting here watching him. I'm like, yeah, I respect it, but you hear something. Just you hear the zipper slowly open.
I was gonna say it must have been so nice because like those big gaps in Canada, it must have been nice to like be able to cut through the States. I'm sure once you guys got going.
Yeah, like it was definitely intimidating, but you know, in a lot of bands in Canada, what they'll do is, you know, it's like they'll just focus on Canada. They'll try to get really big in Canada. But by that point, it's almost like too late, you know. Then they're like, well, I don't want to like start at the bottom and go touring the States. So it was weird to be bands in Canada that, you know, would be doing really well, have lots of good shows, but they wouldn't tour the States at all. And so for us, we really did do a lot of the States. Maybe we weren't the biggest band in Canada, but it was like, we were like, well, we'd rather have, you know, be kind of average in a bigger space than bigger in one spot kind of thing. And so, yeah, I mean, it was grueling and a lot of bad shows and a lot of tours that, like, weren't a great fit, but you just kind of take what you can get. And
just play with who you can.
Yeah. Great experience.
The reason I'm sure our band heard about you guys was from Ryan from For Today.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he was the one who was like, dude, you guys got to hear that, like, they sing. They're melodic, too.
Yeah.
Like, I think we kind of talked about it maybe on the podcast or before the podcast about how like it's crazy that we didn't get to do anything.
Yeah, I know that would have been sweet.
You guys really would have been a good fit.
Yeah,
well. Oh, especially even now, like it's, you know, thinking about like this video we watched from Counterparts, just seeing like melodic hardcore was not very popular when we were doing it. You know, we did an American tour with a Muir, and it was. You know, that was what was popular, like super heavy, like breakdowns. We come out there playing like, you know, kind of melodic, catchy stuff. Everyone's just standing there like their arms folded watching. But it was just like, well, this is the opportunity we got. And I mean, they ended up getting huge. And so, I mean, yeah, it was good experiences and you only know what you know. So,
yeah. Now, I may be completely off on this, but doesn't Canada has money like for the arts and for music and stuff like that, right? Like, don't they do some sort of like salary type thing for artists and musicians? Or am I?
There is it's called Factor, and I don't know all the things about it. A big thing they do is they help you record if you do it in Canada, which we did do for the first album. I can't remember all the parameters about it. Like we either maybe we applied and we didn't get it, or face down because we had a budget already. They were like, "Well, you don't need the money," kind of thing. And then later on, we recorded in the States, and so we didn't get any of that. So I don't know exactly what that covers, but there definitely is money out there. Like I know even Comeback Kids, some of their CDs on the back will say Factor because they've recorded in Canada. And I can't remember if you have to like play so many shows in the country or whatever it is, but it is cool. If you can do it right, then you can utilize it.
Also, I don't know if you'll know the answer to this or not, but I think one of my favorite B movies ever was filmed in Regina, which was Wolf Cop.
I never saw it, but it was definitely recorded there.
Okay, I thought so.
There, I guess.
The best werewolf transition scene I've ever experienced in my life, because it starts with the dude's dick, basically. It just turns into a werewolf from the crotch out, and it was
special.
It was amazing.
Well, there was like a car or something in that movie, like a wolf cop car. Like for a while there, it was driving around the city, but I don't know that anybody knew of that or cared.
Yeah, they're like, what the heck? Yeah,
that's funny.
Fun little shinfo information. So then going from playing in Means, and then what was the like kind of driving force behind the podcast? Like, was it just like, hey, let's get together and talk music, or was there, was it like we're just homies and we do this already, or?
Yeah, well, kind of so like the gap between Means ending and the podcast, like I didn't really have any like good music outlets. Like I still kind of played on my own, but I mean the band ended like fairly abruptly in the big picture of things. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, like now I'm not doing what I thought I would, love doing, and or what I did love doing. And I mean, the podcast was, a long time after the band ended.
Right.
So anyways, I guess when podcast was a thing, I would, look them up or find, and I came across this one, or someone had posted about it, and it was called Music to My Peers. And so the premise was like, this guy would like show an album he loved to someone that maybe didn't know it, and they, try to get them to like it or whatever. And and so there was a Thrash one and an MXPX one, and I was like, oh, like, this is cool. I love these albums. And then I found out it was in Edmonton, Alberta. And so I just like looked up the guy and, like sent him some messages, and then we just like started chatting. I was like, oh, like we kind of like all the same music. And so eventually he was like, oh, like you should come on the podcast sometime, like talk about some albums. And then so I did, and we just kind of started doing it more. And then he kind of had a co-host that was like kind of not into it and just wasn't interested. And so David, who's now the co-host, was just like, hey, like, do you want to just come on full time doing this podcast, and let's rename it, let's rebrand it or whatever, and just kind of start from scratch. And I was like, man, like I've been like looking for an outlet like this. So that's where Growing Up Punk kind of started from. So it was a pre-existing podcast, changed the name, and so David works in radio, so he's like really good at the talking and the editing and kind of putting everything together really well. And I love like, doing interviews and searching stuff out. And so it's a really good fit. It's really fun. We have like pretty different tastes kind of now in music. We have a lot of the same love for the earlier bands. But it works really well. Like, he'll interview bands that like I don't really know or care about, and then I'll do the same. And so, it's a cool community because it's more than just, just punk bands or whatever. And we're just doing it for fun. If we like a band, it's like, hey, let's talk about them or interview them or whatever it is. And
that's cool.
And that was 2-3 years ago now. So it's been really fun to just keep doing it and have something for fun without the pressure. Coming from the music side of things, like you guys know, you kind of get to a point where it's still fun, but like, okay, like this is serious. You got to put lots of time and effort, and it matters if you just like half-ass it, you know.
And people can tell when you're kind of just phoning it in or you're just not giving, everything to it.
And so, I'm not saying we half-ass the podcast or whatever, but it's just nice. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
If we don't do an episode this week, like nobody cares. It's not going to affect our lives or anything. And, but we still love doing it. And so we're passionate about it and put the effort in. But, you put that own pressure on yourself, but it's just like, dude, nobody cares. Like, no one's going to be breathing down your neck if you don't like talk to this band or that band or whatever. And so, just having that outlet to talk about music.
That's cool. So I had just, since we're on the podcast, I have a couple podcast questions. Like what's been a band that it was like, you guys strike me as like you said, you kind of put feelers out, and then you don't strike me as someone who'd be like that persistent, like we got to get this band on, or we got to get this person on. But has there been like, is there someone that you guys like, there's almost like the effort to like make it happen,
Like,
and then
we need this.
and then when
we
it
need to do
happened,
this.
you're like, dude, sick.
Yeah. That's a good question. Like, honestly, when we started the interviews, like when we first started the podcast, like interviews wasn't even on our minds. It was just, let's just talk about albums we love. And then it just was kind of like, oh, like I should reach out to this band guy and even just like ask information about this album we're going to talk about. And then that band person's like, well, do you want me just to come on? I was like, oh, yeah, I guess so. Like, I hadn't really thought about that, right?
Yeah, that'd be sick.
And that's honestly what started the whole thing. It was a tooth and nail band called Dogwood. And that's honestly like how I connected with Ryan. Was just like, after that, I was like, well, what are some other like tooth and nail bands that I love that I could ask? So it was like Off the Record and, every other one that I could think of on there that we've had on. So I've been asked that before, like what's your favorite guest? And it's like, honestly, the ones that like nobody's really thinking about, because like those bands and records were so influential for me, finding a band like Off the Record, whenever there was 2000, it's just like, man, like this is so awesome. 20 years later or something, being like, can I still hunt one of these guys down, and talk about it? And
So let me jump in here.
yeah,
When he hit up you
speaks.
for your interview, he didn't hit you up directly. He like went through your management. So like I don't have a big presence on social media, but I get a message on Instagram and it's like, were you in Off the Record? And I was like, dude, I owe you money or something. Like it seemed like kind of sinister.
I with that.
Yeah.
Just following up.
And I was kind of like, standoffish about it, but I'm like, I mean, yeah, at one point, and then he kind of was like, well, I'm, I run a podcast. Would you be interested? I'm like, yeah, but why?
Yeah.
Why are you interested?
Why
You know
me?
what I mean? But yeah, no, it was cool experience.
And I think what's rad is like, at least for me, like it's like I said, the whole like homegrown. Like for me, like I said, they're a band that I don't think gets as much recognition as they should have. And then when I saw you interviewed Ryan from Off the Record, I was just like, dude, this is sick. Like no offense, but I'm like, who would have thought to interview
Right?
off?
Right.
Like,
exactly.
Well, that's what I was doing. I was like, who else, like, who would not nobody else think to ask, but it's been a long time since those albums came out, right? And so, lots of music podcasts. It's like, okay, what's the next new album coming out? Let's get that band on, kind of thing. And we do a lot of that too. And I'm always stoked when we get, have like today we released an episode with Stick to Your Guns. They've been around a long time. Love that band. So I love doing those things too. But I also love, who are the ones others aren't going to think of.
Yeah.
And also just ones that were influential to me, because I was from a small town. Like when I got that Off the Record album or other albums on Tooth and Nail, like I just assumed those were huge bands,
Same.
right? Just because you'd see it in a magazine or you could buy it in a store, up in Canada. So I was like, well, they must be a huge band. They're on Tooth and Nail,
Yeah.
And so to me, it was still like, it wasn't like, oh, this is just some little band no one's ever heard of, right?
It's funny that you say that, because like you always look through like magazines, or you look through like even looking at records like on the shelf and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, these dudes must be like doing something like crazy big, like they must be doing something really cool. And then I remember all of that, like went crumbling for me the first time like Creative Void was ever featured on anything. I was like, oh, you don't got to do shit.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything to really like, you know, be on some things. But it's still, I like the idea of like, oh, remember this record? Let's fucking bring these dudes back.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk about this, because like I was telling before you got here, I was telling them that you had showed me like that fucking metal intro from Off the Record, and I was like, dude, this is sick.
Yeah.
Like, and I have this like, as time has gone on, I've talked to Mike about this. Like, when I got into, I guess like heavier music or like punk rock or anything like that, like I wasn't surrounded by people that listened to it, right? Like, so for me, like growing up in Atlanta, it was like you either listen to like rap or hip hop and stuff like that, R&B. And then the kids that were into like alternative rock stuff, you'd listen to like either more metal or like that southern rock type of like heavy stuff, you know. And so like the little bit of like punk rock that I heard was only like shit that you would hear on the radio that was considered punk, or like the Ramones, or you know, the Clash, like that type of punk rock. So to me, I was always like, okay, whatever. And then coming back out to California and then being surrounded by that type of music, I'm like, oh, I like this.
Yeah,
like,
that's
you know,
cool.
you know, just hearing that stuff. But yeah, it's definitely cool to that you guys are not only doing like the new stuff, but like, oh yeah, remember this, like this was sick, let's talk about this, or let's bring this back up. I really like that.
Yeah, and that's still, I mean, like, I'll still have a list of, you know, like, okay, what are some, like, I'm still searching it out, like, oh yeah, this band, like, recently did one with Set Your Goals, so there's another one, I was like, man, I don't feel like I've seen them kind of on podcasts and stuff, like, should reach out to them, like, I love that band. And so I got to talk with him, and it's like, yeah, just feeling that connection, like part of it feels like I'm like cheating the system. It's like, well, I've got a podcast, so I've got an in now to like be friends with these cool band guys. And it's lots of time has gone by, and they're like, everyone's pretty chill, right? It's not like back in the day where you had to go through like a publicist, or you just felt like you were just some like little guy talking to like, you know, to the big guy. Now it feels like kind of level, right? It's like, yeah, they're like, oh yeah, I'd love to talk about what I was passionate about, you know, 5-10 years ago, and someone's willing to, you know, do that. Let's do it. And
like it's just one of those things where you don't, especially if you still continue to listen to some of these bands, you forget that like, oh yeah, they haven't played in like 10 years.
Yeah,
they probably aren't even doing anything in music. I thought it was interesting your interview with was it Clark from Rufio?
Yeah,
like just hearing how like he, I mean, it sounds like he's not really doing a whole lot of music, just like small things, but it's weird to be in a stage where a lot of the bands we grew up listening to, like, unless they're like the big and still doing it, like a lot of them, it's like, man, they probably went on to leave normal lives. Yeah. You know, which is,
they're stoked to talk about it, and it's cool.
That's rad.
Do you think that so because you guys listen to a lot of like, you know, newer records also, you know, a lot of the new stuff coming out, how do you feel about this like emo and pop punk resurgence that we're seeing lately, that everybody likes to attribute to like Machine Gun Kelly and shit like that? Like, how do you like? And I know that that's so controversial, and I even hate saying it, but like, I'm curious about other people's opinions on this.
Yeah. I'm not into it, but it's kind of one of those, like, you know, maybe it will help people look up the real pop punk bands.
Yeah.
No offense, but
Right.
you know, those that have kind of been doing it for a long time. But yeah, it's not the type of pop punk that I love. It just it doesn't have the feel and emotion, and I don't even really see it as pop punk. I just kind of see it as just like pop, and you know, like just trying to be edgy. But again, anybody can do what they want. If they feel inspired to do that, then go ahead, be creative and do it. I won't listen to it, but that's you know, but it's cool seeing guys like Travis Barker, you know, having his hand in so many things, and you know, it's almost too much. But at the same time, it's like, you know what, he's using his giftings and passions to bring up others, and if nobody does it, then maybe it will just die out. So maybe in the long run it will help. But I don't know. And maybe it's just an old person thing, like, I was better, you know, even though it was better. that stuff. Like there's still really good pop punk new stuff coming, just not that like, I don't know, kind of celebrity punk or whatever. It's
Well, dude, I think I had a little bit of a tough time with even the newer wave of what's considered pop punk, because like for me I was kind of like even like a band like The Story So Far.
Yeah.
For me at least the first time I was like there's elements of punk in this, but I feel like it's more indie. I feel like it's more
It's
more
more
like,
pop.
he's more pop. It's more like emotional, not realizing that's where kind of music was going. You know that this newer stuff is a little more, I think, self-aware about themselves, whereas a lot of the older pop punk bands is like about partying and like writing about random shit. It's just like it took me a minute to like really step back and be like, this is the new pop punk. This is
And again, you have to have those new generations coming up, whether you like it or not.
Right.
Like that era of stuff isn't my favorite either, but I mean, at the same time, it's cool. Like that opens up doors and keeps, the punk aesthetic or whatever kind of going. And so, that's just kind of how music is. Like, I don't have any strong opinions on like this should or shouldn't happen. It's like, there's other stuff there if you want it. So, leave that for someone else. And
I feel like I toe that line of just being like, no, I'm just becoming an angry old man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
like I get triggered by using that word that Jesse used. I get triggered by the kids that are like, oh, like, this is pop punk. There was never pop punk before this. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking?
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I'm like, oh, I've become that old guy that I told myself I would never be. Like, I'll never, like not understand music. Like I'm always going to, and then I hit a point where I'm just like, oh, this is garbage. Like this is, this is really bad.
Dude, but wasn't there there was like an online campaign that was like Machine Gun Kelly saves like pop punk. Like I remember seeing that and I was like, mind you, he is a great guitar player, but I just, like I wouldn't care one way or another, but I'm like, was it really in need of saving?
I mean, I think that there's like, it's good for a band like The Story So Far, or like State Champs.
I feel like
that are like, they were already good to begin with for what they were doing, and then you have like, now I guess it's being put into the mainstream, right? So then you like look up pop punk on Google, and then you're gonna see these bands start to show up on that list. It's not the most ideal way like to get promotion and marketing and shit like that, but at the same time I guess it benefits them. But I just hate how it's done, I guess. Like to me it doesn't feel genuine.
I don't feel like any of the albums from those artists, like the Machine Gun Kellys, whatever, like in 10 years, I don't expect anybody to be like, man, like that was so influential. And I can't, I always go back to it. Like, it's just gonna be out there. I saw a playlist on Spotify. It was just like a pop punk one. It has some like artists. It said Machine Gun Kelly, Avril Lavigne, MXPX. And I was like, how did MXPX get put at the bottom? And those other two, and so I just kind of was like, wow. I think I screenshotted it and posted on the MXPX Facebook group, and it's like, wow, that's kind of embarrassing. I think he had a picture of Demi Lovato as like the main picture. I was like, this is weird, but I mean, if MXPX can be put by those, man, maybe that's good. Maybe that gives more exposure to MXPX.
Gives someone an opportunity.
Yeah.
To hear some.
Right now, I was searching up to see like what's like the number one pop punk band in 2022. It's not even like Machine Gun Kelly or it's K-pop. It's BTS.
But that's not.
And then they want to put like back in the day, it was the Beatles supposedly.
That's weird.
And then like a couple of years ago, it was just Blink-182.
Yeah.
It's a weird list. I guess if you think about it though, like pop punk was never, I mean, for us it was defined, but like in like your everyday life, it was never like, you know, like we never called, you would watch Blink-182 on TRL and they never called it pop punk, right?
Yeah.
They were like, oh, here's Southern California rock band,
Yeah.
Blink-182, you know, or Newfound Glory, you know, things like that. So I guess in a
Or
way,
they would just call them punk.
yeah.
We're also in an era where like anything goes, you know, back 20 years ago, it's like you have to sound or look like this to be this.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's do whatever you want, call whatever you want, and you have to accept it. So it's kind of like, okay, like some rappers now pop punker. Okay, he's a punk artist now
Yeah.
because it's just the way it is. So that part of it is, again, maybe just aging and just different things.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something, and then in my own head, I was like, no. I'm gonna say it, but I was gonna say that like, I was like, you know what? Maybe I think I appreciate a band like Good Charlotte more now, because they were willing to like, they looked a certain way
Yeah.
and they didn't match how they sounded, but like, I still can't really get behind it.
Would you rather listen to Good Charlotte or would you rather listen to Machine Gun Kelly?
I mean, I guess I'd listen to Good Charlotte, but like I remember they were one of the bands I had the hardest time. It's still even now, I guess, apparently, as I'm talking out loud. I remember seeing them and just being like, "What? This is not like."
Yeah.
It felt manufactured.
It's not. It felt very fake.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, to their credit, like they're
They were
still around.
huge.
People are still talking about them, and so yeah, sometimes it can happen when a band just like sticks to their, you know, their sound and their look, and
Yeah.
but again, you could do that in that era a bit more than now. Like now, it's a lot more fleeting, and it's kind of here today, gone tomorrow, and you know.
Yeah.
Well, the last little thing, I guess, I wanted to kind of put this out there again. I think at some point I may have mentioned this on this podcast, but when I did, I think it was, I can't remember if it was after the MBR one that I did or if it was the Pure Noise one that I sent you our EP.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one it was, but it really was a big deal to me that you're like one of the first people, because at the time we weren't really showing anyone, like, just because
I was kind of surprised you sent it. I was like, oh man. I mean, I always love if I get something, you know, early, but yeah.
But the big thing was because like, and I guess we haven't talked about this much about like your are you a social worker or do you work in the field of social work?
I'm not a social worker. I work with an organization that works with at-risk youth. So for 7 years, I worked in a housing program with youth, but it wasn't in a social working capacity. It was like a youth leader, mentor. Like the youth lived in the houses, so you would work in the houses, you know, pick them up from school, do all the kind of day-to-day things. We had caseworkers that would like, you know, help them work through things or come up with like kind of a life plan or goals kinds of things. So I mean, a lot of the things I did were, I mean, I guess would be called social work, but not in a degree. You know, I wasn't giving them advice on, you know, things besides like, yeah, like a mentor, right? Like, you know, maybe here's some things you could try in life to better yourself, but not from like a medical standpoint or whatever you would call it, you know.
And how did you get involved in that?
Oh man, yeah, it's so the band ended and I had a kid 3 months after that. So it's like I'm a new dad. Like my life is so different than I thought it would be.
Yeah.
I was working at a place called Mr. Sub, which is like Subway. I kind of worked there, you know, anytime I was home from tour, and he was just like, hey, you know, you're here, like, you want to work? And so I was doing that, and so I was just like, man, like, you know, it was just it was a hard transition in life. Like, it was fine. I wasn't, you know, like upset about it or whatever. You know, I was happy to be at home with my wife and kid, and I was just like, I am not passionate about just like making sandwiches and like serving people.
Right.
I always thought this is sort of a random thing, but like every time I worked there, you know, like business people are coming in, whatever. It's like, I'm a grown man making this other grown man a sandwich. It's like, what? I always just felt like, why don't you just make a sandwich at home and bring it to work? Like, why are you coming here? Anyways, maybe my mind is just weird. I guess that's just eating out in general. So yeah, so I'm working there and I'm just like I can't do this. Like I was just getting like really frustrated. And so I was starting to kind of look for something else, but wasn't really being drawn in any certain direction. And I had a friend that was working at this organization, and he called me one day and was like, hey, like they're going to be opening a youth home, and I think you'd be a good fit for it. And I was just like, yep, sounds awesome. I just like went and applied, like didn't even really, I was aware of the organization, but like I had never worked with at-risk youth or like in that capacity. But I was just like, yeah, let's just do it, you know. And yeah, so I went and applied and kind of somehow got it without any training, but I was willing to do it. And like, and what was cool is the band had kind of given me that opportunity. Like, no, I mean, I wasn't like counseling anybody on tour, but you know, a lot of the youth that come to punk hardcore shows are, you know, they're looking for an outlet. They come from broken homes, you know, they're going through things. So it wasn't that different. And you know, I had enough interactions with that where like I was comfortable with it. It wasn't like a foreign thing to me. And so I just kind of went for it, did the training and started working in the housing programs and did that for 7 years. And then I transitioned to a different position in our office. Yeah, for 7 years I did shift work, just serving kids and hanging out and trying to give them some guidance and support. And yeah,
That's very cool.
That's good. I like it.
It's a thankless job. We'll just say that.
Yeah, like it's funny. I got to do. I can't remember if I was already doing it when I talked to you, but I was a counselor at like a home like that.
yeah,
But man, it was tough. But I feel like a lot of like I feel blessed to have done music for as long as I did because I feel like it like in a way it kept me young and like
yeah,
you know these kids definitely they're like a different level as far as like they're saying stuff I'm like
yeah,
oh I should know what that
Yeah.
means or like I think he just called me something or you know what I mean that whole
Yeah.
thing but
I get text from Mike. He's like, "What does no cap mean?"
just kicking and shoot me. What's going on? But like I do feel like you know my time in music and being able to talk with that kind of
yeah,
you know that environment being in that environment and the kind of people like kids it draws and it was very helpful and I feel like it suited me for the kind of job and yeah but like and just to end that little thought like it was like I remember sending you the EP and you being stoked on it like it was a good
that's what we're talking
confidence boost for me because
Yeah.
like you know the lens of what I was trying to write and I mean you're the first person to like really validate like this makes sense like what you're saying makes sense like this is not and so I don't know that was like nice for me moving forward to kind of have that you know because it had been 6 years since we'd released anything and written anything and my first I never want to come across like preachy or like or corny it
Yeah.
could be like you know is this too in a certain way so anyway all I say is like your positive feedback was very big for me
Yeah, awesome.
and releasing
Yeah,
that
glad
so
to hear
thank you.
that. Yeah, well, that was, you know, music can be, like we've said with some of these up and coming artists, like kind of a fickle thing where it's just like, you know, do we really need more songs about, you know, whatever, this or that? And so I think maybe it's an aging thing or consuming so much music, it just stands up more. It's like, okay, like there's actually something going on here. This guy's got something to say that actually draws you in to make you want to listen to it. And that's part of, you know, maybe just pop punk in general. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. There's lots that has stuff to say, lots that doesn't. Maybe that's just part of the fun vibe to it. Not that you guys are a pop punk band, but yeah, but it's refreshing. This, you know, I really liked the aspect you were coming from it. It was really cool. You were kind of doing it like as a project for your schooling and really focusing on this, you know, not one topic, but kind of a series of topics. So anyways, yeah, still love it.
Dude, it's funny. So me and Aaron had been, you know, talking after I did the podcast, right? And we had talked about no bragging rights, just in conversation or whatever. He hits me up. He's like, dude, having Mike on. it's gonna be sick. He's like, I heard the new EP. You're gonna love it. I'm like, and then he said something else too. Like, trust me, when it comes out, you're gonna love it so much. I'm like, come on, man. Like,
I definitely held that over a few people's heads.
yeah. It was like
A few other
it was a
friends, I was like,
tease,
man,
yeah.
like I just heard the like hardcore EP of the year, and you're gonna have to wait 6 months to hear it, or however long it was.
Yeah, it
but-
was a long wait.
Yeah.
I think about that now. Dang.
Yeah, I've got one buddy that loves you guys, and he just every time I'd be like, man, like I probably shouldn't show you, so I won't. And he's just like, man, screw you, like like in a fun way. But anyways, yeah, he loves it too. But yeah, so yeah, I guess we didn't really kind of about how kind of So I had Ryan on and then Mike on, and kind of I don't know if you had asked about us writing music together or not, but anyways.
Yeah. We so it was one of those things where I asked Mike, I go like, nobody's really talked about this project, right? Like nobody's really like vocalized it or like really talked about like, oh, this is what's happening.
I've been talking about it up in Canada nonstop.
So I was like, can I talk about this on the show? And Mike's like, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So now just through podcasting, right? Like through the podcast and talking,
First
getting to
podcast,
know each
man.
other. You guys are starting basically a new project, right? And then shout out to Ty, because we got to mention him on every episode apparently.
Yeah.
So shout out Ty. So when you guys started just like, you had this idea like, oh, let's start writing. Let's start.
Well, it was like, so when I did the podcast with Aaron, it was weird too, because we talked probably for like 45 minutes before we even did the podcast, right? And we covered pretty much everything that should have been in the podcast.
Like the
Finally,
whole show.
He was like, maybe I should record this. So a lot of the stuff we said was like recycled. We already had the conversation. And like after we did it, I remember asking, I was like, "Are you still play any music?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just do some, recording on my own." And I was like, "Oh, do me too. Like, you want to like do something long distance, collaborate?" He's like, "Yeah." So he sent me some stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, man." So I sent him some stuff back, and then we kind of just started like working on each other's ideas, and it got to a point where Aaron brought it up, maybe we should try and find someone to like sing on some of this stuff. And I'm like, dude, whatever. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to, I'm old, I'm tired. I don't have the energy for any of that stuff. But I was like, yeah, dude, if you can find someone to do it, have at it. And so when he told me that he was having Mike on, I was like, dude, ask Mike, right? And I'm just being, messing with him. Aaron hits me back like 10 minutes later. He's like, dude, I talked to Mike. He's in. I'm like, you actually asked him? Like, you actually asked the dude that's in like established band if he wants to like take part in like, online collaborating. But
Now, had you and Mike met at that time?
Well,
maybe years ago.
Like we kind of like I'm pretty positive now that at a church, and the thing to show that you play was Sick of Change
In Redlands.
in Redlands. Yeah.
Interesting.
I went, and this is gonna be, if anyone who knows me, how ridiculous this sounds. I went up to him and I was asking him about guitar questions, like amp setup and things like that, which I'm sure he told me and went over my head. I think the only thing I grabbed from that was like, okay, I need to get a pedal.
I need a distortion.
I need to crunch this. I need to crunch my shit up, and I need to turn my mids down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scoop the mids.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, like just me being like a fanboy and like picking his brain. That was it. And then Aaron was the one who hit me up, and I was like, "Wait, hold on. So you're writing music with Ryan? That was an off the record?" I was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be like punk." So we just kind of sent each other ideas. But if you want to sing on it, man, that'd be sick. I was like, yes.
And then, so we talked about this a little bit before we got on the show too. How nervous were you to send the song guitar parts that you wrote to Ryan?
Oh, dude, I wasn't scared. I was just embarrassed. I was just embarrassed. I was like, well, because he's like, yeah, if you have any ideas, and I had written some stuff like, and like it really is stuff that's not, it doesn't work for Burner State. Doesn't work
Right.
for NBR at all. Like that's not. That's not. I don't even like think of anything where like myself or like I haven't had a thought of being like, oh, I'd be sick if NBR did this.
I'm gonna write an NBR song.
Yeah, that doesn't even. That hasn't crossed my mind in years. But with like Burner State, I was like, I had written these songs to write because at the time Burner State didn't really have a sound. It was all like we were all bringing stuff to the table,
Right.
and so it's kind of obvious that like I think what I want to write in my style is different from Burner State,
Right.
and so which is cool. I like that Burner State's his own thing. This project is his own thing, and so yeah, sending him my stuff because it's literally me on guitar, no click. I'm already awful with the rhythm. I'm shocked that he was able to make sense of like what I was doing because it's just me recording myself.
The funny thing is, like, he teased at it. Like, we were talking one time. He's like, I have some ideas that you know what? No, you're not interested. You're not interested. I'm like, what are you talking about?
I used to play guitar.
Yeah.
Just,
And I was like, dude, send it to me. He's like, well, all right. But then, it was a while back, and I hadn't warmed up. And
yeah. My fingers are still cold.
but it was cool stuff, man. It was cool structures. That's all you need.
Yeah.
I've been listening to some of like the little demos and things that Mike was showing me in the car, and I was like, fuck, man. I was like, I'm not even a guitar player, and I want to learn to play this stuff because it just sounds fun.
Yeah.
Like it just sounds fun to
Thanks,
play.
man.
So it sounds. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what comes next. you
Yeah.
know?
So going back to the whole like how we haven't like talked about, like this is literally the first time this will ever will be out anywhere. Like because for one, like we're still it's just like writing ideas. We don't have a band name.
But we named it at the beginning of the show. I don't even remember what we said.
Mental Thrash.
There it is.
Yeah.
Mental Thrash.
Kind of sick. And so so I think like we're all like super busy, and it'll be like I don't know what the time frame from when the first song was sent to like where we're at now, but it's like there's these big gaps where it's like there's nothing, and then he'll send like a song idea, and it's like, oh, sick, yeah. And then for me, I've been like thankfully Burner State's finally done writing, but like that's been the longest process because we've always we always have these random songs coming up, but Burner State finally solidified recording dates, so like I think that kind of made it, like, lit a fire under me to be like, let me just finish these freaking songs. And so anyway, that's all I have to say. It's just I feel like we haven't had like, other than like nothing's been like finished. Like we have finished songs now, but there's no recording date as far as like, oh, we'll record this date.
Right.
Again, we don't have a band name, but yeah, so it's just kind of it's been fun, and it's a band that lives on the internet right now, just through emails.
Sick.
Yeah.
Which has made it cool for Aaron to come out here. And yesterday we went out to Ryan's, and we kind of just I got to record some ideas, and I know they've been jamming through ideas that Aaron has. Aaron plays guitar. I can't remember if we mentioned that already, but so he has his songs, and him and Ryan have been putting together things. So
yeah, it's so fun just to be at a kind of like with the podcast, like a stage in life where it's like you can kind of just do what you want for fun, and like it's just nice to not have the pressure, and it's just like if this song works for this project, great, or for this, for that. It's like it's just fun to have an outlet to be creative, whatever the creativity is used for. And I mean, with the internet, it makes it a lot easier, and it's just cool how something like the podcast, brings us three random people together,
right.
But not so random. Kind of the more we talk, and it's like, oh, okay, like we knew that each other's bands, or grew up with the same kind of bands. So yeah, it's been really cool.
Just three young kids from a small town.
Yeah, there we go.
Getting together, playing some music,
Playing the fire hall.
So, so we're gonna do some things a little bit backwards, but you had a story that we wanted Ryan to get in on before we close out of this.
Oh,
this
yeah.
show.
Oh, I guess kind of just last night we wanted to go get some dinner, and as we were in the car, I don't know what I was saying. It's just like a random tour story or something that I had said, and I think it's funnier when Ryan tells it. But yeah, I'm in the I'm in the back telling the story, and then we just hear what is like a.
Well, he was asking you like tour questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're going to In-N-Out, dude, and the line was like so long.
So you have time to kill.
Yeah. And Aaron was asking Mike questions. They were talking like band stuff. I wasn't really paying attention, honestly. I wasn't. And I had, dude, it was super hot, so I had like the windows just barely cracked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had my AC on. I'm trying to like get the hot air out. So they're talking. Aaron asked something about like an earlier tour, and Mike's.
I think we were talking about like, is it still hard? Can you still, handle staying up late and touring at your age or what?
Yeah.
Different experiences and.
Yeah, so he's Mike's responding, and all of a sudden Aaron's like, "Ow!" And I look over, and I'm like, "What the hell?" Like the story was not that exciting, and then
It wasn't like
he does it. He does it again,
Yeah, it was like
what happened is I was rolling up the window. And he freaking had his hand out the window, but dude, it was cracked like that much, like.
So you just
Yeah, like the window's like pressing my head. I'm like, ow!
He was in pain and couldn't actually say, like, my hands in the window.
yeah.
Hey, I thought he was really feeling my shit.
And you're just like, why isn't this shit closing up?
Pulling it harder. Yeah.
Hit it again. And at the same time, I don't realize I have access on my own window to roll it down. I was just like, what is that pain? Oh, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
But he made it to the podcast despite
Yeah,
the hand injury.
Despite my injury.
That makes sense now. The image of you just with random bandages wrapped around your hand.
Right, right after it happened, like we'll make sure, like, hey, are you good, man? It's like, he's like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm like,
He's like, I'll never play drums again.
you're still doing the podcast tomorrow, right? They will do that. Did we have any stuff on the?
Not really.
Okay,
A bunch of our friends talking nonsense. I kept checking it.
just not.
Just nonsense.
Do we want to do the Reddit thing or?
We can.
I just felt like there was like some tie to it. It's kind of a.
Is it an old man thing?
No. It's someone who's basically sharing that they're. I think I'll just read it. But what I just think that we can all kind of chime in on this because I feel like Aaron kind of touched on it being from a small town and what music did for him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like we can kind of touch on this from a music standpoint, and we're all invited to participate in this.
I'll swivel the mic around so Martin can get.
Yeah. So Mike introduced. It's called Reddit, and
Mike Perez, king of the internet.
And
I honestly don't know a whole lot about Reddit. I don't know that I've ever gone on Reddit, but
You know what? You don't need to,
you don't.
but it's a rabbit hole that you'll fall down.
Dude. Yeah. And so you can type in. There's all kinds of topics with threads. Is that
Subreddits?
subreddits?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So this one, caught my eye, and the reason this one catches my eye is because there's a couple points in here that I just feel like we could touch on because the person who's writing is 18 years old.
Okay.
And they're talking. They use words like I thought things would change when I got older, and it's just like
At 18.
at 18 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, so it says, I'm 18 and I've just had enough. I'm never anyone's favorite or even close. No one has ever been excited by my presence. I haven't had a close friend in at least 5 years. I'm tired of the emptiness and loneliness I feel every day, despite how hard I try to make friends. I hate the way I look. I just dislike myself generally and cannot see things getting better. I've always been told it'll get better when you're older, ever since I was younger, but it's gradually gotten worse, and I genuinely have nothing worth living for. I'm really struggling. And so, anyway, so from that, I'm 18 years old.
You know what though? Like it's kind of a bummer, but I feel like I probably felt like that at 18 too. because it's one of those things, dude. Like, you think 18 seems like such a milestone when you're not 18, right? Like when you're a kid, that's such a huge, like, oh, I'm a fucking adult now. And then you don't think that, like, you think you're going to have it figured out at 18 because you're an adult. Now you can fucking buy cigarettes and you can vote, right? Like, that makes me a fucking adult, right? And why are you shaking your head, Jesse?
You can't buy cigarettes.
It's 21, right?
You could back when we turned 18.
I think it can.
Back in the 80s.
So, but like, there's the unfortunate part is like somebody that's 18 now versus when we turned 18 or like when I turned 18 is that like, it's the whole idea of like keeping up with the Joneses and also like the idea of like social media, right? Like, you're looking at other 18-year-olds doing fucking cool shit or like having their best friends around them, like traveling, doing like crazy stuff. And then you feel alone because you're comparing the life that you think everybody else is living. And, you know, like I thought I had a bunch of shit figured out at 18 and I had nothing figured out at 18. Nothing at all. And, you know, like, it's just unfortunate that now, like, especially like we're another thing too is that when we were younger, like, we didn't express our emotions. We didn't express feelings like this. Like, we might have all felt that, or I, at least speaking for me, I might have felt that, but I would have never said it out loud. Right. I would have never put it into a public forum or a public place. Whereas now it's like, hey, we can express these feelings and nobody's going to give us any answers to this. And that's part of what makes it such a bummer, is that people are just going to go, like us, oh, you'll figure it out because you're going to have more time to figure it out. And other people be like, oh, you're stupid. Why do you feel that way? You know? And that's part of the internet, you know? I don't know. Like, I just, it sucks, but I get if I think back, I get the 18-year-old mentality of like, I'm fucking done with this because I've gone so long in this world, you know? So I don't know.
I feel like it's one of those things where, and I think literally everyone in this room, for feeling that way, I think all of us at least had music.
Yeah.
You know, and like, I wonder with this person, I wonder, you know, how close are they? I feel like anyone, like, especially when they're that age, I feel like they're so close to having something that gives them like purpose, you know, because, you know, or giving them, you know, like, they're so close to like, dude, you're like, you have opportunities, you know, I don't know where they live, whatever, but it's like, you're really close to meeting that one person that might even change it, you know, finding that best friend, or you know, or finding something, that thing that you're into, or there's something you might find out that you're good at, you know. And so like, when I you know, have opportunities to have conversations with people that are, you know, this age or even younger, you know, my thing, I'm always encouraging them, like, you're like, you still have opportunities in front of you.
It's so much life.
Yeah, it's like, someone like this, it's just like, I want to know about them. Like, I want to talk to them. I want to know, like what does your day to day look like? What are your interests? You know, because like, your interests can, like, and it doesn't sound dramatic, but like, it's like your interests and your things you consider hobbies could be life saving. You know, I go back to like us. Like, I feel for myself like super fortunate, and like, I get scary to think of what my life would be like if I didn't have music for myself, and where I would go mentally when I was young. Because I was a kid, I would never tell anyone what I was doing. I struggle with that, you know. Even as an adult, it's harder for me to like to share a lot of stuff that I'm feeling, and so yeah, I just wish that like with this kid, I'm gonna message them, but like, I want to know like what their life is, you know. Cause I feel like everyone's on the verge of that one thing that'll get them to the next day, that one interest that'll like, you know, spark something in them. And so I don't know. It's just hard. It's always hard to hear someone that young talking about being like, dude,
I'm done.
I'm over it. Like, things aren't getting better. And it's like, dude, you're 18.
Yeah, well, I think it shows the importance of community, like whatever that means. I know it's hard, especially if you're introverted or awkward or whatever. But so are lots of other people. Like I really do feel like there's someone for everyone,
Right.
whether that's a relationship or just a community, right? Like if you're into anime or gaming or whatever it is, like just find someone, because there has to be like. I can't imagine, there might be a lot of people that feel like they're alone in this world, but there's too many of us to be alone.
Right.
It just it takes the effort, and that's the hard part, I think. But I would, it's always worth finding that,
Yeah.
just to have that, right? Like, yeah.
Well, before we, so we're doing things a little backwards on this episode. We're going to end with our mental health check.
Oh shit! We blew right past it.
But before we do that, I want to say go ahead and follow the show, like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz at Walking Blind Pod everywhere. You want to plug your social medias for the podcast and everything?
Yeah, mentallythrash.com. Just kidding. It's just Growing Punk Pod on Instagram, Twitter, or .com. We have stuff up on YouTube. Check it out if you want. If you don't, then that's cool too. That's the fun part of having this now. It's like I don't have to. It's like, hey, if you don't want it, that's okay.
You don't like it. You don't like it.
The worst promoter.
All right, so
All right. Big dog in the corner. You want to plug some social media?
not you, Jesse.
Not you, Jesse.
I'm good.
Just plug like CNN.com or something.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So Mike said we're doing this backwards. So the whole purpose of this podcast, why we even started it, was it started with just us checking in on each other, seeing where we were at mentally. And so that's basically what we do. It's a mental health check. We kind of talk about where we're at for the week and whatever, is there anything that we're doing that is either helping us, if we're doing well, what are we doing that's helping us? And if maybe we're not doing so well, maybe what are we doing or what are we ignoring to do that could be helping us? So who wants to go first?
I can start because I've got, so coming down to LA or Southern California, like this kind of stuff is so life-giving for me. Like just, I've the last 4 or 5 years, I've struggled with physical health issues and, I'm married, I got 3 kids, so life is busy and hectic and there's always like needs around and sometimes it's hard to like find things that fill you up. And so honestly, like this trip, like we say we were talking back and forth and I was like, man, like it'd be so sweet to just go in person, hang out. You don't get many opportunities to do this kind of thing. And I'm really grateful my wife is supportive about things like that. For me to be gone for a week, it's, a lot for her to take on.
Yeah.
But it's, so life-giving for me. Like even just this week texting, she'll be like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, just recording, hanging out, playing music morning till night. Like, it's just awesome getting to just kind of hang out with friends, kind of like how it used to be, not really having responsibility, staying up later than I normally would, or, just like, it's like, oh, I don't have to do this or that, or just, doing our thing. So, yeah, for me, that's been super good. Mental health, just having an outlet to kind of feel free and, not restrained by or constrained by responsibilities and adulthood. So I think it's important for people to do that. You get so caught up in work and like things you need to do, right? Pay your bills and look after your loved ones or whatever. But yeah, just doing things like do something that just makes you feel like you, like just go do something dumb or not in a bad way, but like something that just makes you feel like you're young at heart, maybe as it is, right? So.
Yeah. I guess I'll go next. Dude, I've been, work's been a little hectic just because I got a new group of people that come in and just getting all these new people trained and getting acclimated to new personalities and a bunch of new, having to adjust to new ways of dealing with people. But other than that, man, it's been kind of nice to, we kind of talked about like the studio and how everything's just been so busy. And over this last weekend was kind of like one of the first weekends that fully like I did nothing, right? Like you came over on Friday, and we just like were toying with like our Zoom setup, like trying to figure out what we needed to do to get this ready so that we can start getting guests in via Zoom.
Our LED light that didn't work.
Yeah, and then our LED light that didn't work. So like we were here, and it was just kind of like us fucking with the Zoom stuff led to us just watching Andor. We were like, oh, we don't have the cables to do this, and then we just started watching Star Wars for like 2 hours. But it was like, and then this weekend was just like I really didn't do anything. Like we worked for a little bit, and then it was just all right. I'm just gonna hang out this weekend. And then like before you guys came over, I was like, I gotta get a bunch of stuff done. I gotta mow the lawn so that the house is presentable. Get it all cleaned up, and then it was just so hot that I was like, nah, I'm just not gonna mow the lawn.
I didn't even notice it not mowed.
So, but yeah, it's just been it's kind of nice to just sit back and chill. And then I had texted Mike today. I was like, so I was looking at the finances, and we need to probably not dive directly into building out the Fields on Wheels just yet. We'll take a little break for a little while, but that's kind of the next project that I'm eyeing and kind of stoked to jump into. But we're gonna coast a little bit. I'll wait for after we've got the shows coming up. That's been I'll talk a little bit more about that once I fully know what's going on with the shows. But that's been a fucking roller coaster ride too. So yeah, we'll see. Other than that, I feel good. Yeah, I feel really good.
I think for me, this week was a little bit of a. I felt like I was like playing catch up a little bit because went up to Delaware, but it's been good, man. I feel like there's just like exciting things going on right now. I feel like podcast is, there's exciting moving in here. Music is right now. It's just like music is full force right now for me. Like it's crazy. Like, but I love it. Like, my problem is I have a lot of music in my life right now. Like, I haven't had that problem in a long time. Yeah. And it's rad. Like, I have my group chat with the MBR guys, and it's just cool to see things in preparation. Like, we have even just like the small talk of like we're gonna get. I didn't see this till earlier today about the crew necks, but we have crew necks that we're gonna be printing, and just getting like that. That kind of stuff was never really fun for me in the past. Yeah. Like, at all.
You never.
I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. Like, but it's just like it's just cool to see like that coming. Like, it's like, oh yeah, and it's just different with like we're doing it. Martin's printing them. Like Martin, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just fun. Like, these MBR shows I'm looking forward to because it's, we booked them. It was us. Like, we talked to promoters for this. We're playing in areas that we haven't been in a minute, and areas that we kind of, in a lot of ways, were big for MBR and how we started. Like, these are like the first places to really embrace us. So it's kind of exciting to go back. And so it's just, I mentally, I feel good because I feel like I've been able to really use a lot of my music outlets, and I'm getting better at jump rope. Freaking finally. But I feel like I'm good.
I don't want to jump the gun prematurely on this, but we are also working on some we're hoping to have some limited run merch for Walking Blind that are actually going to kind of match Mike's shoes. So interesting that colorway came into effect. That one hurt a little bit. You got a little cramp. Oh man, maybe next time take the shoe off instead of lifting your leg all the way. That's much better. We need. Can you cut to camera 2, Jesse, so that we can get Mike's full reaction?
Ooh.
My leg, my life.
That was not embarrassing whatsoever.
So yeah. On that note, do you wanna give your mental health check?
Sure. For the most part, I'm good. Yeah, like having Aaron come down, hang out, like doing music, not working. I feel like I'm 19 again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I wake up in the morning and my back reminds me that I'm 43. But no, it's been good. I like what Mike was saying. Like doing music has always been like, no matter what I had going on, you know what I mean. Like music just kind of balances things out for me. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm lucky to have that too. Things
Sick.
are good.
Oh yeah. Well, dude, thank you guys both for coming and hanging out, man.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Stoked that we actually got to have you in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I know we were like kind of toying with the idea of like doing it through Zoom,
Yeah.
figuring it out.
This is way better.
So yeah, I'm excited, and I'm also stoked that we were able to fit this many dudes in this little
Yeah.
space.
This
You
is
know?
Room for a few more.
Yeah, and we got for what you guys don't see is we've got Martin. You know, we've mentioned him sitting on the floor, and he's he just keeps like trying to adjust himself, like, but there's really no room to move. So he's like wrapping an arm around the tripod.
I'm so impressed that he's able to. That he's sitting next. I was thinking like, should we get him a chair? Mike's like, no, I probably want to sit. And I was like, there's no way. And then Martin comes in. He's like, I'll just sit. Like I'll just chill here. I'm like, all right,
He's like for an hour. I was like, he'll be fine.
he'll be fine.
He's cramped up like 7 times.
Yeah, I know. It's,
I can't feel anything. Fucking icebox.
well, on that note, we love you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you guys next week. Thank you to Aaron. Thank you to Ryan. Thank you to Jesse for running the cameras. Thank you for Martin sitting on the floor. Thank you, Mike. Thanks
you,
for
man.
cramping up on show.
What? I don't know.
All right, guys. We love you guys. Peace.